All right. We've heard a lot about add-ons today, and I'm here to really beat it over your head, the whole point of add-ons. So just a quick brief. I'm Katie. I'm responsible for Ember Observer, and I maintain a couple add-ons, Ember Feature Flags and ember-try. I work for Code All Day, which is my own company with a partner doing consulting. All right. So what is an add-on? And it's really an Ember CLI add-on. So it's something that extends Ember CLI, which is a node package. And so Ember add-ons are node packages with custom that extend from Ember CLI and have custom metadata. They have the keyword of Ember add-on, and that's the magic that makes it an Ember add-on. They usually add to Ember or Ember CLI. And there's been a little changes lately with people trying to consolidate a naming convention with ember-CLI for extending from Ember CLI and ember- for extending from Ember. But there's some add-ons that extend from both as well. Add-ons first appeared in Ember CLI in 2014, June 19th. And that was 0.0.35. So if you want to put that in a little perspective with today's versions of Ember CLI. Since then, there have been 1920 add-ons published. Yeah, that's pretty crazy. How many of you have published add-ons? Wow. So I'm going to tell you a lot of stuff you probably already know, unfortunately, or maybe it's good to hear it again. So only 1325 of those are what I would consider active add-ons. What does active mean? So active to me means user can tell what it does. If I can look at it and it's just the boilerplate README, that add-on may as well not exist to me. It needs to tell me why I would use it over other solutions as well. It needs to be intended to be shared. A lot of those add-ons that have been published are accidental publishing of private add-ons. Yes, I've done that once myself, or twice. It's not a style guide for a particular website. It's open source, and you can find the repo. It's meant for other people to consume. It's not a Phil Murray. There are 292 of these, and it's from Adolfo Buelas. I hope I'm pronouncing his name correctly. His excellent Ember CLI 101 book takes you through how to build an add-on, and that's a great tutorial, but 292 of these weren't really helping me out. More generally, an add-on is active if it's not a fork of another add-on with nothing added. So just to read it, I'm a user of add-ons, I'm a maintainer of add-ons, and I have the unique position of looking through all the add-ons daily for Ember Observer. And I fill out those little questionnaires if you've ever been on there and seen it, and categorize them. So I've used many add-ons, and I've maintained maybe 3 or 4 apps this year. So users want add-ons, and we've heard a lot about this today. So we want add-ons for the same reason we want Ember. We want Ember because it lets us build higher, and we want add-ons because they also let us build higher, as Yehuda said earlier and was quoting Steve Jobs. Wide availability of add-ons means speedier development, and so we can really change what we do, change what level we're focused on. Someone must have done this before, and I bet they did it better than I did. That's a quote of myself from a previous talk 4 years ago before I even heard of Ember. And usually it's pretty always true. So I always like to look for somebody else's solution first, or at least let their solution inform what I end up with. An add-on has already done the work. No need to reinvent the wheel. A lot of these are similar points. Save development time and effort. Addon has already done the work better. They solve edge cases you didn't even think of. As Yehuda mentioned in his talk, Ember Font Awesome added the area hidden he would have forgotten otherwise. My example is I often use Ember modal dialog, and it handles clicking outside of the dialog, where I would usually forget to do that and then have to have somebody else say, hey, you forgot to do this. There are more smart people that don't work for you than do, if you're thinking about this as a company and why you would want to use open source and why you'd want to potentially contribute back. Let's see. The community maintains add-ons, so features get added without you doing anything. It's amazing. Or sometimes you're involved. There are bug fixes. People upgrade them to the latest version of Ember CLI. It's really kind of a magical experience. Users want to find add-ons and do what they need. So this is one part that's like maybe the hardest part is discoverability of add-ons. In order to find an add-on that you do need, you need to have some parameters and how to search for those things. And so if it's font awesome, you can look, and that's pretty easy. You just search for font awesome. But if you want something that handles responsive when you're also using PhoneGap, it's a little bit harder to find that. Ways to find add-ons. And so I'll go through this quickly because Miguel hit on a bunch of this earlier today. You can search npm for Ember add-on, which is the tag. You can use ember-addons.com, which has a stream of add-ons as they are released and updated. You can use Ember Observer, which filters out inactive add-ons, categorizes add-ons, and scores them. So this is how I choose an add-on, and it's very similar to how Miguel chooses an add-on. Why the add-ons available are amazing. Every dependency is a liability, and so you do want to carefully consider when you bring one into your project. I look first for functionality for the ones that say they're going to do what I need them to do. I look at a demo if there is one, and if it looks good, then I proceed. Then I look at the Ember Observer score. And so from finding the list of ones that have functionality, I get a list of 10 or 5 to 10, depending on how many there are. And for Ember Observer score, of course, I trust it because I came up with it. So, but let me explain it a little bit more. This is the point breakdown of how the metrics that I've come up with, what they represent to me. So one is sustainability, which comes from the number of contributors. 1 point is from popularity, which comes from looking at whether or not it's in the top 10% of downloads. 1 is for interest, which comes from whether it's in the top 10% of GitHub stars. And this is top of all add-ons, not globally, of course. There's 2 points for being maintained, which is having a release in the last 3 months and having a commit within the last 3 months. 2 points for being active, being open source and not an empty add-on. These will likely be replaced by other questions in the review. That was before I had the concept of add-on that active, that those were points on this review. And there is a point for meaningful tests, a point for running those tests on CI, and a point for documentation. But there are also some other things I look at when I'm looking to use an add-on. Some of this is represented in the Ember Observer score, but I find that anything older than about 6 months, I'm going to look a little bit more cautiously at. And I haven't elected to remove those or make them get an extra more beyond the 1 point hit on Ember Observer. But because how fast JavaScript and Ember move, I think that anything older than 6 months, it's pretty unlikely it's going to work with me if I'm up to date. If I'm staying on the latest Ember and the latest Ember CLI, I'm going to look a little closer at that add-on. Examine the API and the code. So you have to look at an add-on before you use it. I mean, personally, that's my opinion. Does the API provide enough flexibility? Does the code look well maintained? Does it follow best practices? Is it using controllers and you're on Ember 2 and you just know that they're doomed? Without a good, like they're using controllers instead of components. Could I take over maintenance of the code base if I had to? Because that's a thought I have with any dependency. If I have to, if this gets abandoned and I'm still using it in 2 years, can I handle taking over this and do I understand what it's doing? Look at the issues in PRs. Are they lingering? Have they been responded to recently? Are there major bugs that are deal breakers? Try a likely candidate. So as you whittle down this list, find one you like and give it a shot. With Ember, it's very easy to just try one out and see how it goes. Rinse and repeat if needed, if you didn't find the one you liked. So didn't find what you need at all? Ask around first. Maybe you're trying to solve a problem that doesn't need to be solved or has a solution that is outside of what you would think. A lot of people come to Ember and think they need jQuery plugin XYZ, and when really you can just do this in Ember templates for free with very minimal effort. But if you don't find it, build it. Become a maintainer. So maintainers are the lifeblood of the community. And I put just the community instead of the add-on community here because it's really the whole open source community. They have a lot of the same problems and goals as other open source maintainers, including Ember itself. Maintainers do want to help. Like, why else would you publish an add-on? I couldn't come up with a reason for myself other than it's an act of altruism. You want to help others. That's not to say there aren't benefits. Publishing open source software can help your career, can lead to improvements in the add-on that you also use, can lead to others upgrading it, and can lead to others finding bugs for you. Maintainers are obsessed with their score. I've learned this over the last several months. Everybody's like, I'm obsessed with getting a 10 out of 10, and I'm always look at them like, The score was almost not added to Ember Observer. I think it was Matthew Beal that insisted I should add it. So why? Why are they obsessed? And I personally don't have this obsession other than I want to hit all the criteria of what I think is a quality add-on. Because maintainers want their add-ons to be used. They don't want to publish something and then see that nobody uses it. That's just kind of sad. And then it eliminates all that effort you put to genericize something that you put out there. Things to keep in mind as a maintainer, and I say this with a caution, is that I am a mediocre maintainer at best. I don't meet a lot of these criteria. I keenly observe others that are very good, though. Testing. So as with all code I write, I place a premium on writing tests. It lets me make changes to the code, and more importantly, in the add-on context, allows me to accept contributions. When I get a PR, there's a CI build that can run and tell me whether this contribution is going to break my add-on or not. And so it lets me more quickly accept those community contributions. Add-ons may not be the focus of my day-to-day, so the tests also help when I try to return to an add-on. Dependencies. So when I'm writing an add-on, you have to look at the various dependencies that you do have, because you don't want anything you have will be a dependency of the apps that decide to use you. So for instance, if you have Ember data in your add-on and the host app isn't using Ember data, it will now have that packaged up with the rest of its JavaScript. Choose wisely when you choose a dependency. Also, you need to be aware of the various versions of different dependencies that you decide to support. So if you bring in Ember data and you bring in Ember, you have to keep in mind they have to keep in sync, or if you bring in another add-on, you have to make sure all those versions work together or you'll break the host apps. Testing against various dependencies. And so this is with ember-try, another add-on that I published. It lets you run in different scenarios of combinations of dependencies. And so the common theme for add-ons is to test against different versions of Ember. And also test against canary versions of their dependencies. And so that testing against canary versions in a build tool, allowing failures, lets you know, oh, maybe the next version of Ember is going to break my add-on. Maybe I need to be aware that I'm going to need to schedule some time to work on it, make it up to date. Looking at similar add-ons or general solutions, maybe there's a general library out there that does what you're going to be doing, and maybe you can leverage that somehow in your add-on. Or maybe there's a similar add-on that you can get together and work on that instead of creating a new one. Documentation. You have to describe what your add-on does and why it should be used. Because if you look at it, if a user comes to your page and looks at this add-on, they need to know why they would use it and what it purports to do. A lot of add-ons have just API documentation. That is great, but I still can't tell what the endpoint is. Semver. I think it'd be great if a lot more add-ons decided to follow Semver, similar to Ember. It's helpful as a user to know if I can take a minor or patch version without expecting breakages. Breakages might still happen as the course of bugs, but it's nice to know. Have a 1.0. A lot of add-ons just keep incrementing 0.0.54. Um, it lets you, if you're using it in production, I think your add-on should be 1.0 so others know that they feel they can also use it in production. It doesn't mean you stop making changes. You can always have a 2.0. Beware of private APIs. If you use a private API, you should have 100% no other way to do it. It should be very intentional action. If you use a private API and Ember breaks that API, your users' apps will break or prevent them from upgrading Ember. But there may be cases to use private APIs. This is from an RFC on the improved release process. This is Yehuda on saying that private APIs are necessary for experiments, which are crucial to the evolution of Ember. And a lot of the experiments have been very interesting, so I agree on that. Be quiet. So don't spew output. Be aware of any console logs in your add-on. Be aware if you're extending Ember CLI, use the UI hook use the hooks that Ember CLI provides for giving output, and if there's browser-side logging, configure whether that can be on or off. Beware of deprecations. Don't spew deprecations. I think this is a problem a lot of people are having right now with add-ons in this transition period from 1.0 to 2.0, is that some add-ons are just all of a sudden one day giving up 74 deprecations. On another note, on the flip side of that, if you are following Semver, you should also deprecate your own APIs within your add-on and prior to removal. Community contributions. So being open to community contributions is, I think, a lot of the benefit of add-ons is you want to make a community solution, not just your own solution that's out there for a few other people to use, though those are sometimes beneficial as well. I find this personally the hardest. I have very minimal time. I've got a lot of other things to do, so it's very hard to work even alone on some of my add-ons, let alone with somebody else, but I do strive to do so. I think it's crucial for add-ons to evolve to the next level by doing this. Ember feature flags has shiny code and has been upgraded numerous times thanks to the community. And so doing things that make it easier in the end will make it easier to develop your add-on and make it even better. That your add-on might eventually grow its own ecosystem. I've seen a few add-ons have sprouted now their own ecosystems. Ember Simple Auth is maybe one of the most notable. Ember CLI Deploy as well. So design with hooks in mind so that when it needs to be extended, it can be. Otherwise, you'll find people are asking for features left and right, and you're a little stuck behind. Package.json. So this is my personal pet peeve, and eventually I will write something that makes this automated for developers to do, is you need to set everything in your package.json, your repo, your keywords, your description, and when you upgrade Ember CLI, be careful not to overwrite it and lose all those values. That happens pretty frequently. So some observations. So this is from the perspective of me going through Ember Observer and looking at all the add-ons day to day. Observing the community has been fascinating. I look at every add-on that has been published and updated. These are some things of passing interest and things that what they make me think we can do. So this is somewhat interesting, at least to me. I hope to somebody else too. It's the score distribution on Ember Observer. And so for instance, there's 38 add-ons with a score of 10. And there's 209 with a score of 5. So you can see the scale there. It skews a bit to the right because of those two criteria that I mentioned that are kind of obviated by the idea of an active add-on. So everything gets pretty much, anything that gets a score gets 2 points by default. So some of these are just a little out of date and need to be up to date. The 38 add-ons with a score of 10 are relatively stable. They've been the same set since at least late July. I find that somewhat interesting. But not every 10 is a 10. Not every 10 is the same. So some add-ons have a single test that gets them in the Ember Observer world a point for a score of 10. And some add-ons have 100% code coverage. And so in the future, I want to make Ember Observer use code coverage and have that inform the score instead of just a single point. This is even more true for the nines. There's 50-something nines, and as the scores get lower, the variation amongst the ones within a particular score increases quite a bit. Most notable of add-ons that have merged is Ember CLI deploy. It's very interesting to watch as the it feels like little bunnies are running around doing things magically, but it's really all people doing really great work putting things together. There's a talk on Ember CLI deploy later by Luke and Aaron, I believe. New categories are emerging. Modals is one of the first new categories to emerge. Experiments and polyfills are somewhat newer, and those are experiments are very interesting. So a lot of them are implementations of RFCs that have been proposed to Ember. And so you can try out what will potentially be new APIs. And the polyfills are things that bring like deprecated or what will be new behavior back to a current version. Or there's some that bring deprecated behavior back into a new version or forward into a new version. And so you can say upgrade to Ember 2.0 without getting rid of object controller. And the most interesting add-ons are actually in the miscellaneous category because I don't even know how to categorize them. But occasionally they start clustering and there's things around the same thing and then a category gets pulled out. There are currently 65 categories. Amazing add-ons are created every day. Every time I look through the add-ons, there's something new and interesting. And the add-on set is not finished by any means. There's a lot of opportunity for other add-ons to be developed. Every time I score add-ons, add-ons gain points. They almost, I think twice, have lost a point, ever. The community is amazing. As users, we have a variety of excellent add-ons to choose from, but we still have to choose wisely. As maintainers, we also need to publish wisely and work together to build community solutions. There's so many options, and everybody is doing great work with the best of intentions. And I think that if we just embrace that and embrace collaborating with each other in a year, we may have fewer add-ons because of collaboration, but they'll be even better quality. Thanks. It's short, 15 to 40. If you have any questions, feel free to get me at the break. I guess I don't think I've seen anybody get questions here. So. Any questions? I have like a back end to Ember Observer that has like a little queue of add-ons. Yeah. Rob?
After you evaluate it, do you have like a checkup to if another version is not published to reevaluate?
Yeah, there's two queues.
Time-related scores. So.
Yeah, there's two queues. So, well, the time-related ones are automated. Only the things are those yes/no's questions are done manually. Everything else is automated, thank goodness. But every time an add-on publishes a new update, I've got a queue for updates and I've got a queue for new, and I go through both. I go through the queue for updates a little less frequently, just because it seems less pressure to get them done. Philip? Track the searches. No, because it's all client-side with Ember. Yeah, so Ember Observer is an Ember app. Maybe it's not an intuitive Ember app, but like not one you would expect to be an Ember app, but it is an Ember app, so I enjoy working on it in my side. Yeah, it's on Ember Observer /client. There's a link in the footer. I know, just confuse everybody by not using the little banner. Luke?
Do you have any crazy ideas about crowdsourcing input to Ember Observer?
Yes, I have some crazy ideas, but it's in a queue behind all my other crazy ideas. I want to make a fancier back end to it. Right now, it's really I put it together just before I finished the thing, and there's one login, and that's the only one that works, and it's really sketchy. I want to make one where people can log in with GitHub and then review other add-ons that are in the queue and maybe update things. And that way it'll be tied to your GitHub name, so if you do something incorrect, everybody else will know. So you can just trust the community for the most part, and then if It's wrong. It's wrong. Though I love seeing them every day. I'm gonna keep looking through them every day.
One idea is there was an add-on like add-on that you opted into basically saying here's the plugins that I use. Then we can get a sense of like what plugins work well together and with what versions of Ember.
Yeah, who uses what together? Yeah, that would be really interesting. I actually thought about having people upload their package JSONs to try to get that with automatedly. I can't speak. Okay. Great. Thank you.